Hi guys, Harbs here. Today I'm going to be exploring an idea that the companions were not randomly taken by the cult of the Absolute. I suppose it is kind of hard to define what this video explores as it goes over a lot and has some pretty interesting theories and reveals. I recently put up a poll asking a similar question, and some of you rightfully put in the comments that there wasn't an option for the fact that maybe only some of the companions were chosen, and others were more random. I have to agree that this is a likely scenario, but I'm going to be playing devil's advocate and I'll try to argue that all of them were taken on purpose, which is going to be difficult to do because there are many holes in this theory, and I don't fully believe it myself. But as I said before, I want to explore this idea. I guess I think that the companions do follow some chosen one type story trope, but it is slightly more complicated than that, and this video will look at why.
I'm not the Messiah, will you please listen? I am not the Messiah, do you understand? Honestly!
Please be aware there will be lots of data mined content ahead, but before we get into it, I'd just like to say a big thank you to my newest patron Tycho. I really appreciate your support and thanks for signing up. I'd also like to say a big thank you to Priest on the Discord server and Chublot for helping me out with this video. Okay, let's go. So, very quickly, I've linked several other videos down below that talk about this in a lot more detail, but I basically think that the Cult of the Absolute is a team up between the Illithids and the Dead Three. The Dead Three want to achieve full divinity again, and they are utilising the Cult of the Absolute to achieve this, killing priests, prepping an undead army, and planning to invade Baldur's Gate. The cult wouldn't have been possible without the Illithids that have let the Dead Three use their tadpoles in order to facilitate this plan. What do the Illithids get out of this? Well, I believe the Dead Three will help them to invade Faerun, opening up a void in the sky, and they can of course instantly ceremorph everyone that was implanted. The cult is full of Dead 3 symbolism, and in a data mined line we can see that in order to remove the tadpoles we have to kill the Dead 3 priests that enchanted them. In the cinematic that we see at the start of the game, it appears that everyone within the city of Yartar is being taken at random. Guards and citizens are all being teleported onto the Nautiloid before the Githyanki appear, and it transports itself away into the Shadowfell. Yes, this seemingly icy wilderness has been confirmed in an interview with one of Larian's senior writers, Adam Smith, as the Shadowfell. The Nautiloid becomes badly damaged here thanks to the Githyanki Red Dragons, where it then shifts to Avernus. But why? The Githyanki don't follow it to Avernus. This red dragon has no rider on it, so it's likely part of Tiamat's dragons that reside upon the first layer of hell. The plan worked, the Githyanki didn't follow it, but it still seems like one hell of a risky maneuver. Instead of Githyanki, the Nautiloid then gets boarded by infernal cambions and imps, which start massacring the thralls and illithids on board. Now, it seems to me like this Nautiloid had a pre-planned route to follow, and things to do along that route before its final destination of Moonrise Towers. If you have a half-dead crew, why even bother going to Yartar? Just call it a day. Perhaps the Nautiloid had a mission to complete, and that mission was to get the rest of the companions. As we, the origin character, are a Baldurian, and so are Astarion and Wyll, it's safe to assume that sometime before Yartar we were all picked up in similar areas. Lae'zel, being from Kresh Kalir, was likely picked up before that. Shadowheart was probably already on board before Yartar too, as I believe that these dead mind flayers here were a result of Shadowheart's suicide mission to retrieve the artifact. Remember that the Githyanki are chasing the Nautiloid, they are not chasing Shadowheart, so I actually think that she boarded the ship willingly to find the artifact and then was captured. As for Gale, he's from Waterdeep, and I'm not entirely sure on when or where he was picked up. But what about Karlach, Minsk and Helia, the three data-mined companions? Well, they will get covered in part 2 and 3, because that's where things start to get even more confusing. What is clear is that the true souls in the game seem to be hand-picked. We have Minthara, who is from House Benrir, the most powerful house of Menzoberranzan, Raglin, leader of the goblin camp, and Priestess Gut, the camp's shaman. It's not like the Absolute is implanting any old person to become a true soul. The leader of the Gnolls, the strongest in his pack, was also selected to be one, and it's why I believe the goblins and drow kidnapped Ulder Ravengard. He is likely also destined to become a true soul. That begs the question then, why were these normal people taken? Well, I think there are three potential categories captives could fall into. The first one is to become a true soul, the second is to become a thrall like these guys here with the Dead 3 amulets, and the third is to be ceremorphed immediately into an illithid. This is what this woman in this chamber near to Shadowheart was destined for, and we can actually transform her ourselves. Unlike ceremorphosis, the process which turns people into a thrall is reversible, as it is entirely dependent on mental domination rather than a tadpole being inserted into your head. Obviously, all of the companions have fallen into the first category and have been deemed worthy to become true souls, but since the Nautiloid didn't make it to Moonrise Towers, the true soul process was never fully completed, leaving our party with their autonomy. Now, a good question at this point in the video would be whether the companions were literally chosen specifically or whether they just fit a certain category. I'll explore this in more detail for each companion, but an example of this could be that Astarion was picked up because he is a vampire spawn of Cazador, rather than that they specifically wanted Astarion. I'm now of the opinion that at least some companions were taken because they fit what the Absolute is looking for, rather than them being specifically taken because the Absolute wanted them and only them. So for example, to hark back to the Astarion example, it is possible that another vampire spawn of Cazador's coven would have been okay too. The idea that the Nautiloid picked them up at complete random seems kind of implausible. A prodigy wizard and former lover of Mystra, Zariel's champion Demon's Bane, the Blade of Frontiers, a Shah cleric on an important mission, a vampire spawn with an infernal poem on his back, and then, Lae'zel. All of the companions have something that could serve the cult of the Absolute, but some of them aren't exactly top of their field. For example, Minthara is from House Benrir, but it isn't like she's the matron mother of the house. This could be because Minthara was easy to take. It was only important to at least have someone from the house that can give the cult a way into Menzoberranzan. Priestess Gut and Dror Ragzin were necessary to implant because Dror was the leader of the goblins and Gut is the spiritual leader, therefore making it easier to convert the rest of the goblins. I mean, the Absolute has some serious ambitions. There is a line that doesn't exist now in patch 6, but in previous patches it said, "I said I'd spread the Absolute's word to planes known and unknown." If some of the companions fall into the category of true soul that just simply fits the bill rather than being actually chosen, then this changes after their fall from the Nautiloid, but they don't become chosen by the Absolute. Rather, they are chosen by the mysterious Orpheus.
Have you ever had a dream, Neo, that you were so sure was real? What if you were unable to wake from that dream? How would you know the difference between the dream world and the real world?
Chosen. Let me come to you. I can help you. I've been searching for you. You're always so far away.
Last night, the risk of transformation. It all feels like some terrible dream now.
The being that likely rescued them from their fall. Orpheus is the mysterious artifact that Shadowheart is in possession of, that is against the Absolute and doesn't want to fall into the cult's hands. This being has saved the companions, but didn't save others like this guy here, who had also been implanted by a tadpole. Perhaps this man was destined to become an illithid immediately.
No. Took everyone. Peasants, lords, took them all. Fire, screaming, then crunch, nothing, then crunch, then crunch.
It immediately marks the companions and ourselves as somewhat special. Now, late one night last week, I shared my theories with Chublot, and as we sat there mulling over the madness and readjusting our tinfoil hats, he sent me some voice lines regarding Orlando, who is a now dead seer in the Forgotten Realms that predicted many events, including the Ballspawn crisis of the original games. Orlando's skull is missing and is sought out by many across the realms. According to Drizd's Guide to the Underdark 1999, it is rumoured that those who use Speak with Dead on the skull can still speak to Orlando and hear his prophecies. The book also states that the mind flayers of the city of Arundel are trying to find the skull for unknown reasons. Anyway, these lines are regarding Astarion specifically, and are apparently not there anymore in the game files.
A prophecy about people falling from the sky. Could it really be about us? I always knew I was destined for something great. I'll leave the details to Orlando. So, Orlando knew all of this would happen. Challenge the gods for their domain. I've already challenged the sun itself. Why not the gods too? Well, if everything's pre-written, nothing can go wrong then, right?
So these lines kind of open a whole other can of worms in themselves, and regarding the bit where Astarion says this,
challenge the gods for their domain.
Well, I will be talking about what that could possibly mean in a future video, because it is already getting a bit confusing. So when Astarion says a prophecy about people falling from the sky, this sounds quite general, and it is in keeping with some of Orlando's other prophecies, the most famous to us being the Ballspawn one, but the chanters in Candlekeep in the first game also give us a few others. They are always lacking in crucial details, which is why even if the Dead Three and the Illithids were aware of the prophecy, they wouldn't be able to pinpoint who to take, meaning that even if the companions are part of this prophecy, they are not literal chosen ones to the cult of the Absolute. They are just part of this prophecy by Orlando.
So saith the great Orlando.
However, I suppose one could theorise that the Illithids and the Dead Three are somehow aware of who exactly this prophecy refers to, and it is why the Nautiloid is so desperate to follow its predetermined path in order to get the ones involved in it. Perhaps the Dead Three think they can turn the prophecy on its head and use the companions for their own gain. In that sense, with what happens, the Dead Three have made a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy by trying to stop it when the Nautiloid fails, and the companions then fall from the sky. However, I personally think that them knowing about this prophecy and who it involves exactly is far less likely. For me, I think the companions were in a sense chosen by the Absolute because they would serve the Absolute well as true souls, but they are not chosen ones in the eyes of the cult. However, they are a part of this prophecy, and in a sense therefore became the chosen ones in the context of Orpheus and the prophecy once they fell from the sky. Anyway, there's a lot to digest here, and in part 2 I'm going to be taking a more detailed look at Karlach, Astarion and Gale, with the rest of the companions being focused on in part 3. I'll be exploring why the Absolute wanted them to be true souls. So if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, then do please give me a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!